Welcome to the Feel Better, Be Better show. Kate and Nevada have spent years exploring ways to live a healthy athletic lifestyle, and this show is all about sharing that knowledge and experience with you. Today, Kate and Nevada welcome a special guest with their own unique experience and advice for living a better and healthier lifestyle.
All right, so let's see. We have Michelle on today talking about all the grass-fed nutritional stuff, the genetics, what else?
And what to ask your farmer.
Yeah, all kinds of things. You know, what to look for, what to ask all the different ranchers, all kinds of crazy stuff. So enjoy the show. Let us know if you have any other questions that we forgot to ask her. All right, so you came out to the market this weekend, get to train up Shelby, or at least answer her questions, be around the market a little bit. I wanted to be able to stick around a little longer, but I couldn't because I kind of want to be able to hear you answer some of the questions that I get asked on a regular basis that even I don't feel very good to be able to give the answers in. And that's like when people come up and they start asking me about, you know, like, well, I get grass-fed at the store, you know, and it's, you know, or, you know, this other kind of grass-fed and everything. So I guess I'm kind of curious. We talked a little bit about it, but what are all the differences that you can on, like, grass-fed? I mean, what makes it grass-fed? What makes it not grass-fed? What can they put on there to say this? I mean, just go.
So I had a gentleman come up yesterday at the farmer's market, and he's used to eating grain-fed beef. And so he asked me, he said, okay, is it a thing that they can be grass-fed and then be finished on grain at the end? And I said, well, yeah, that's industry standard.
Pretty much how they do it, right?
That's how they do it. So if you're a person that's looking strictly for grass-fed, then you need to ask certain questions. And the first one I would recommend that you ask is, instead of using the word grass, use the word pasture. Are they pasture raised and are they pasture finished? There's a lot of variations of what that looks like. And so, for example, I told him, I said, there are feed yards out there that will feed their cattle grass pellets and call them grass-fed.
Grass pellets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they'll take the forage and then they'll have it, you know, made just like hay, but they'll have it made into a pellet and they'll feed it at the feed yard so then they can market them as grass-fed beef. Okay, so are they lying? No. But then you have to ask yourself, so why are you really looking for grass-fed beef? What are the benefits of it? And what we tell our customers, we try to educate, is that the whole idea behind grass-fed beef is not just what they're consuming, but how they're consuming, what their lifestyle looks like as they're out on pasture. So there's a huge difference between being in a pen, eating grass pellets, and, you know, our family used to have a feed yard, and so we were part of it. I mean, we were huge believers in corn-fed beef because that's what the industry did, until we started looking into things more and realized that, oh, yeah, we don't have to follow the industry.
Well, I can't believe that, I mean, from what you said there, I can't believe that you can label it as grass-fed beef if you just, like, throw the hay in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can say that's grass-fed?
Yep.
You just throw the grass in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild to me.
So that's why it was actually my brother-in-law who was the one who brought that to our attention. And he said, hey, you know, I think instead of labeling it as grass-fed, you need to label it as pasture raised, and pasture finished. Mm-hmm. Because then all of a sudden that brings the whole, that opens up the spectrum of what does that look like. And for most people, when they hear pasture, then they think of something like wide open spaces, and you're not just stuck on one particular thing that they're eating, grazing on, right? Mm-hmm. So we call it pasture raised, pasture finished. And there are a lot of people who don't understand that, which is fine. Different pastures look different in different areas of the world. In Kansas, like you have your taller grasses, you know, in the Flint Hills. And then you go western Kansas, and we're excited to have buffalo grass that maybe gets an inch or 2 inches tall. And people say, well, how in the world can your cattle survive off of that? And what I've learned from my husband, Matt, is that our grass actually has more punch in it than the taller grasses. And what's crazy to me, because you'll see a field that's really tall and you think, oh, those cattle must be in heaven. And Matt has made it clear that cattle can starve in really tall grass if the grass is not nutritional and is not
packed with nutrients. And
exactly.
Stuff. So basically, the smaller ones you're getting the same amount as the tall ones.
Yeah.
It's like same kind of nutrients. It's just some's packed in a little. It's a
Exactly.
little package more.
Exactly.
Well, and you guys put other stuff besides just grass out there that they eat, right?
Yeah. So we do cover crops, and that's a term that most people are becoming more and more familiar with. This is something Matt integrated into our farm 15 years ago. So basically, the concept behind that is to reduce the tillage and to always have your ground covered to protect it from the elements. And especially where we live, we fight to keep any kind of moisture in. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, it's like your skin outside versus having something over it, protecting it. It keeps the moisture in, it keeps the hot sun from beating on it all the time. And so the concept is to always have it covered. With that being said, one of our favorite varieties of cover crops consist of approximately 14 different species, which is fun because then you have taller items, shorter items, and then mid-size. And so you have cover crops that actually spread out and cover the ground, and those are more of your nitrogen fixating cover crops, such as your hairy vetch and your peas. So that it's more of like a vine where it'll cover the ground. And then you'll have some of your sunflowers, some of your sun hemp that goes really tall, and that'll shade over. So not only do the cattle love it, and not only is it like nature's salad bar because you're offering all these different varieties, but yet it's really good for the soil, and that's a really big focus that we have. And so that's why we really focus on the pasture raised and the pasture finished, because not only are the cattle benefiting from it, but it's the ground. So they're helping give back. And what they do is, so the difference, if you have a cow, a steer, a heifer, whatever, in a pen, and they're living in that pen, they constantly have manure, urination going on, and it's just eventually builds up. Yeah, they scrape it and they put it in a pile or whatnot, but they're just in a dirt pen. And so it's kind of like how I explain, it's like having a fish in a fish aquarium. Yeah, you can clean it out and whatever, but eventually they're just in this little space going around, and it's not benefiting really anybody. It's fun to watch, look at. Yeah, they grow, they get bigger, but then the difference is, would you rather have eat a fish in an aquarium, or would you rather have a fish from a lake or an ocean? It's healthier, it's natural.
Yeah, definitely the ocean.
That's the way it was intended, right? And so with the pasture, so the concept is with the cover crops is they walk over it and they'll smash it down even more so it covers the ground even more so. Then they urinate and they fertilize the ground. And then they have this natural tillage with their hooves. So they'll kind of work the ground, but not so, much to where it interrupts all the microbes. And it's this natural, beautiful process. And then once they, cover the ground and they eat it down enough to where Matt says, okay, that's enough, then we move them. And so there are a lot of different aspects, with pasture, raise, and finish. There are a lot of different ranchers who have a different concept of how that should look. But I would say to consumers, what are you looking for in beef? And if you're truly looking for something that you can maximize the health potential and find a meat that's sustainable but also craveable, then you need to ask those questions. And another one would be, are your cattle born and raised on your farm? That's huge, because anybody can go buy some cattle from a sale barn and not have any idea of the history, what their genetics look like, what they've been through. Why is the rancher selling? Are they selling because that's part of their program, or maybe they've been sick? Who knows? And as a consumer looking for, quality beef, you have to be very careful about that. So ask your rancher, your farmer, whoever that is, whoever supplies your beef, if that's important to you, ask them those questions. Are your cattle born and raised on the farm? And if not, Where do they come from? Do they come from the same source?
So ranchers they may have like land, however they have land or whatever, can go out and just be like, just get whatever on sale cattle they want, and maybe that one's been in a pen, living on grain, whatever. I mean, they've done whatever they've had.
Given antibiotics or whatever.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And they can throw them on their pasture and not give them antibiotics and any of that stuff for how long before they can sell them as non-antibiotic grass finished.
So that's a really good question, because there's a lot of controversy within the cattle industry. And I've been a part of that. So because a lot of people will say, even though you treat your cattle with antibiotics or hormones, by the time they go to slaughter, that's not a thing, because there has to be so many days from the time that they've been administered to the time they're butchered. And so a lot of people, let's say the industry with the feed yard will say, well, our cattle don't have any hormones and antibiotics. And that's been very controversial, because some people will say, well, there's no trace of it. However, you need to ask yourself, is that something you care about? And if it is, then you need to ask them, have they been given hormones or antibiotics or steroids ever? And with us, we don't see the need. When they're out on pasture and they're healthy, we don't need to give them antibiotics. Now, when they come through a feed yard and there's thousands of cattle, yeah, you automatically, as soon as they get off that truck, you run them through, you give them antibiotic, you typically give them a hormone, steroids. I mean, that's what we did, because that's what you did. And because it was all about the bottom dollar. You had to grow them fast, you had to grow them healthy, and you had to grow them big.
Well, if you're getting from somewhere else, you don't know if they have anything.
Yeah.
So it probably was kind of a standard.
Yeah.
Wipe it all out with antibiotics to make sure they're okay. And
it's true. They've tested meat to see if it's in, if those hormones or antibiotics in the meat, and they say no, it's fine, because there's been so many days from the time they were administered to when they were processed. However, they are finding out that there are effects in the meat, and you could argue that all day long until you're blue in the face. So you really have to ask yourself as a consumer, what are your convictions? And if those are your convictions to not have any hormones or any antibiotics, then you need to ask. No
matter what, the design of that hormone or that antibiotic is to go into the body and the body of the cow or whatever, and manipulate, or basically, I say manipulate, it's not really that, but to go in there and change something.
Alter.
Yeah, because otherwise there'd be no point of taking it. So, I mean, there's an absolute reason to do that, and I don't know if obviously at some point in time we will probably know, but do we really know exactly how that changes with each different cattle's DNA? So, I mean, it may work great for 80% of the cattle, but there might be 20% of them that have a negative response to that, and so then we change it up a little bit more. Well, now you changed it for the other 82, maybe it may not work for them as much. So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. How do you know all of the steps that antibiotic or that hormone changes all the way through the cattle's life?
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because you look at our kids and how they're being affected with hormones and some of the puberty, how all of a sudden, starting way earlier, and you go, okay, where's that coming from? And a lot of it is tied back to our food source. And so I'm not one to sit there and to show you all the data. There's data out there. And so as producers, we've looked at that and said, okay, how do we want our program to look like? And how can we produce a product that can be so controversial? How can we produce a product that is in its purest, cleanest, most sustainable form? And so our convictions are, you don't need an antibiotic if they're not going to be in a pen, or they're not going to be exposed to a whole bunch of sickness. And if they're born on pasture and they stay on pasture, it's best case scenario. A lot of people think, oh no, you need to have cattle in a pen, they need to have a shelter. Cattle do not need to have a shelter like goats or sheep or hogs. It's different. And so with that being said, it's really healthy for them to be exposed out in the elements. Now, obviously, things can get extreme, and then, snowstorms and things like that, and heat. Heat can be very dangerous, especially when they're all grouped together in a pen. That's why being out on pasture is really good, because they adjust themselves. So if they're hot, they're going to spread out, or, if they're cold, or they group together. But
They
yeah,
go
it's-
for the high land or the low land
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
smart.
intuitive.
I mean, that's how they were designed, and so they can adjust themselves.
Man, I wish they would have designed me smart.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, no, so it's gonna be a lot of episodes.
So, Kate, with you being here at the store and at the farmers markets and having, people, you're the one who directly sells the meat to people. What do people ask you those questions, or what kind of conversations do you have with customers that, or maybe we could help answer better or educate or?
Yeah. I think the big one you already hit on was a lot of people who are looking for grass-fed beef will clarify if it's finished. So I think
Okay.
that's good. But another thing, I feel like we have a lot of people who come and are kind of skeptical in the fact that they're like, well, I've tried grass-fed, but it wasn't any good.
Yep.
Or I've tried multiple, and your guys's was really good in comparison. And, I mean, obviously everybody does it kind of different. What are the things people should be asking so that they get good quality tasting grass-finished beef, not just grass-finished? Because there are a ton of health benefits, but, like,
Yeah.
you want good taste, too.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up, because when we first decided to change from doing corn finished to grass finished, we were all extremely skeptical. And we just thought it as a fad. Like, oh, yeah, it's just a fad, whatever, And so the first one that Matt finished, will never forget this. He brought the steak in, and he grilled it. And he thought he had to grill it, do a reverse sear, because that's how we read, that was the correct way to do a grass-fed steak, because they were typically tougher, not had as much marbling. And so he did the reverse sear, got it really hot, and then, So he brings it, he puts it on a plate. All 5 of us, our 3 kids, and my husband and I were sitting there, and we look like Tiny Tim's family, cutting like the steak, and he cuts it up, and he hands it to Hannah, and she takes a bite, and she's like, it's pretty good. So we're all curious. We go around, and we're like, this isn't anything like I've heard, So to answer your questions, we have found over the years, so we started in 2018 with the grass finished side of things. And over the years, we've made adjustments. So one thing we have found is it definitely depends what you finish them on, what kind of pasture you finish them on. Kind of like in dairy cattle, if dairy cows get into onions, the milk can taste like onions. And so the meat isn't going to pick up as much like the milk does, but you do have to be careful of what you finish them on. And so we have found that there are definite grasses, pastures, cover crops that we'll finish them on, and ones that we'll stay away from. When we first finished our grass-fed beef, it was a really strong flavor, kind of like
gamey flavor.
Gamey, kind of like you think about deer and elk, and being out on pastures their whole lives, and that gamey. So it was more of a gamey flavor. And we soon realized that one of the aspects with grass-fed beef that we don't have to do, that the industry prides itself on, is dry aging. So if someone's looking for good grass-fed beef and their genetics are grass-fed genetics, that's another thing. You can't just take any animal, any type of cattle, and put them on grass.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other night, where I mean, you guys do the same breed. You're breeding them back. So I mean, you're giving your own cattle, or they're born there. They do that. So that, to me, I think you guys have perfected that. With that breed in your area, you can grow these crops, and you'll get out what you want to get out. That good flavor, healthy beef. And I just can't even imagine with all the other things out there, where people are buying other cattle and they don't know the genetics, the grasses they may be growing. Yeah, it's pasture finished, but it may not match up with what they're doing whatsoever. Are they getting the right mix that they had because they had when they were younger or something like that? What nutrients can they not get and can get? I mean, it's amazing when you sit back and you try to think of all those variables that you almost want to make sure you have in whoever you're buying your cattle from.
Well, and it's true. Like, you think about a human and a salad. So everybody has a different idea of what a healthy salad looks like.
Mine's covered in ranch.
And some people will even tell you salad's not good for you. So you have to get to that point. If you're a salad lover, what is it really that's in the salad that's healthy for you, or it's just you like it because it tastes good? And so it's the same way with pasture. Just because it's green and it's grass doesn't mean necessarily that's what you want to finish your cattle on, especially with the breed and the genetics that may not go hand in hand. And so Matt has done a lot of research over the years of what type of cattle we need best for our land, because we get less than, I'm probably going to misquote this, 15 inches a year, maybe even less than 12 inches a year of precipitation. So with that being said, we cannot support the big framed cows that a lot of people pride themselves on. I mean, the industry has always been excited when you can get this huge cow and this huge bull and they produce these huge, calves. I mean, of course, because you're looking at numbers and you're thinking, oh yeah, we're going to have a good crop out of this, because the
more
bigger
pounds,
the better.
more you can.
And it makes sense when you're doing it that way and you're going to finish them out on corn. I mean, that makes sense. With us, though, we need our cattle to be as efficient, grass-eating, beef-producing machines as possible. And so our herd is actually quite a bit smaller for a couple of reasons. One of them is Matt thinks about the cows and the calvinies. And what calvinies is how hard or how easy is it to give birth to that calf. And he has got it to where we don't have to pull any calves. And because he cares about the cattle, it's not just about the production, but it's also about the well-being of the moms and the baby. Because nothing is worse when you've put in all this work and all this time in your heart and soul, and you're excited about this baby calf being born, and then it gets stuck and it doesn't make it. And then you're worried about the mom. I mean, it's very, very sad. And so because he has paid attention to that now, and he's made it to where our herd is so much smaller, our calves are smaller, it's easier for them to give birth. The bulls are smaller, but they're very efficient when they eat. And so our land does not have to support all these huge animals. It's not a good fit, basically. So we're not only looking at the cattle, but we're also looking at the land and what it can support, and it's healthy for it. So it's a working relationship both ways.
Sounds like we're not gonna, get like rhino or elephant or anything like that. It's ridiculous.
Dang it.
We're done.
You're like beef.
Yep.
We got that one figured out.
Yep.
That's where we're going.
Good. So, so you're asking me about the flavor.
Or at least what can people ask to have a conversation?
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously there's not like one type of grass or cover crop or one type of cow. But it sounds like if someone asks, like, well, how do you raise their cows? And someone's like, well, we breed them back and we make sure they eat this certain grass that we found works for them, then it sounds like you have a better chance of finding better quality tasting meat than versus somebody who's just like, well, we put them on grass.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can market that they're grass-fed. Anybody can. And that's where, as a consumer, you need to do your research. You need to find a trusted source, and you need to really know what that really means. And when they say grass-fed, ask them, okay, they're grass-fed. Were they raised there in the same, farm or ranch? And then were they finished on the same farm or ranch? Or is it more like a factory where you buy them, they come in, you put them on grass for a little bit, then you ship them out to, finish on corn? Some people like that, and I'm not going to knock it. I mean, there are people who, they've always had corn finished. They believe that's the best. We were one of those people until we learned more about it and really saw the whole picture and what was better for not only the cattle and the land, but the people and the environment. So when we saw that, it was a game changer. And it's interesting because we'll have people ask us, well, do you do dry aging? And with corn-fed, we used to pride ourselves on the fact that, oh yeah, it's Black Angus dry-aged beef. We age it for at least 2 weeks to 20 days. And, you'll go to Vegas and there'll be restaurants where they have those beef hanging.
Yeah.
And it's been aging for 60 days. Okay, that's great. That's what people like. Fine. We found with grass-fed, it works the opposite. So the longer you age it, the worse it tastes. The first time we ever tried a prime rib, a grass-fed prime rib, my husband thought, okay, we're going to make it super tender. We've never had one for Christmas. So we're going to stick it in the fridge and we're going to dry age it for 60 days. We pulled it out. We smoked it. It was the worst prime rib we have ever had. It worked the opposite. And so we started talking to other grass-fed producers, and they said the same thing. They said, yeah, don't hang them for very long because they age naturally out on grass. With corn-fed, they age them so the meat actually deteriorates some and becomes more tender and has more flavor, because the corn-fed needs that, and that's where the flavor comes from. But grass-fed doesn't need the flavor because it's already in the meat. And so if you hang it longer, it's going to get stronger and it's going to get worse. So you could ask your producer, how long do you age your beef? It's a total opposite.
So how long are you guys aging yours?
So, good question. Right now we use 2 different processors, and that's the key right there, is finding a processor that will work with you and actually understand it. Because we've gone to some processors and they say, oh no, we do 20 days, and we're like, nope, we're out, we can't. And it's really hard for a processor to switch up. They have a system. And so for us, we try not to age any longer than 12 days. We're getting ready to go talk to a new processor that's looking to help us take our product to the next level with some value-added products, ready to heat, easy prep meals. And as soon as I talked to him, without me even asking, he said, oh yeah, well, with our grass-fed cattle, we do 6 days. I'm like, yes, they get it. So, and we've even had people who have had severe health issues with mold and Lyme disease from Kansas City reach out and say, do you dry age your beef? And we're like, yeah, but it's this many days. And they go, okay, well, then we can eat it. But if you dry age it any longer, we can't. So, for health issues. And so I think that is something that's starting to kind of come out, and people are starting to realize that, okay, just because dry aging is the industry standard, is it really healthy for you? So, I don't know. I guess it depends what your health journey looks like, what you can and can't tolerate. So we're trying to get ours 6 days or less now, like your big butchers, National Beef, the ones that you'll buy beef at Walmart or Sam's, or they do wet age, and so they don't dry age at all. Well, why do they? Because it's the quicker they're in, the quicker they're out, the more money they make. And so that's why dry age became big.
That means they can sell it for cheaper and save everybody money.
Yep. Make more money on their end.
Well, yeah, there's also that.
But yeah, and so they do wet aging. So basically, they butcher it. It goes on the rack. They cut it up. They put it in the package, and they have liquids in there, and it ages in the bag. So you don't have to dry age, but that became an industry standard, especially with Black Angus beef, and it's delicious. But the way we're going, we've realized we don't need to do that. The flavor's already there, and the tenderness. So genetics, how long do they age their beef? Let's see, how they were born and raised, what conditions they were raised in. If it's a stressful environment, your beef is going to be tough. It's very important. You can even ask them, when you take them to the butcher, which can be a sensitive subject for many people. It even is for Matt and I. I don't go with them when we go to the butcher because I don't like it. But you can even ask them how they're transported. So Matt never takes a steer, heifer, cow by itself because it's too stressful. So he always makes sure that at least there's 2 of them or more, because it reduces the stress of the animal. And so making sure that when you take them, they're not stressed out, that makes a huge difference also. So you can ask them, how do you haul your cattle? Or are they on a huge, truck and they're just with all these other random cattle? Or do you take them? I mean, those are questions that you can ask that I think all kind of go into the quality of the grass-fed finished beef.
I'm sure just too, you can just assess how much knowledge and care that farmer puts into their food as well. So
Truth.
I don't want to say other people necessarily don't, but if they really are doing all those things or can speak to most of those things and seem knowledgeable, they probably have looked through the process a little better.
Yeah, well, and overall, if you talk to any kind of small rancher or farmer, whether they believe in grass-fed or corn-fed, you're going to know that they care for that animal. Yes, the industry overall, especially, the big companies, have gotten a bad rap, and rightfully so. However, when you talk to an individual small farm or rancher, you will know that they live and die by that animal's well-being, regardless of what media has said, regardless of what, yes, there's always some bad apples in the bunch, just like with any industry. But if you have a face-to-face conversation with most farmers and ranchers, you will realize that the whole animal well-being is what they spend their whole life on.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, but even still, even when you have that, you need somebody that's also willing to question every single thing they think is right all the time, and
Absolutely.
constantly be researching, because you guys keep changing the way trying to come up with better ways for your stuff as well. And
absolutely.
so many of the, like you talk about, like, oh, well, they used to do it for 20 days. Well, they may be stuck into that mind frame, and they could talk about they just keep feeding them that kind of pasture, but that doesn't necessarily work out great for the genetics that they have. So, I mean, you almost need somebody who's also like, no, this is what we do, but we also keep researching now.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm fortunate to be married to someone who loves research and loves to play the devil's advocate, where he's constantly reflecting, going, is there a better way we can do this? Or, maybe a more efficient way, or something that's less stressful. Matt went to a class for a whole week just to learn how to handle cattle in a calming environment, just to create an environment to where they're not stressed. A lot of times you'll see on TV the cowboys in the movies where they're, yipping and hollering, and they have the cattle prods and whips, and they're moving cattle and the cattle drive, and, all the excitement. Well, clearly that is not a relaxing way to do it. And Matt learned how to move cattle with a horse and strictly on foot, and to just be like when you're moving cattle, maybe you're loading them up on a pickup or on a truck, or you have to move them from one field to the next, just how to get in there and just stand there, and by just a simple step forward or a step back, or just being in the right position where their head is, you can turn a whole 100 head of cattle by yourself instead of having all this stress.
I bet he learned how to play the piccolo, and he goes out there and just kind of serenades them.
Well, knowing him, he probably could. I mean, with his beard, y'all just look at him like,
whoa.
So
that guy must be in charge. Listen to what he says.
Exactly. So yes, we're constantly seeking ways that we can, contribute to all of those factors that make the best situation for those cattle and our land, and for people and future generations. Another thing that we do that we found out is we feed them garlic powder. So that helps with the fly situation, because clearly if you smell like garlic, flies aren't going to bite you, or vampires. So it's a good deal. Or vampire free.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then like your meat is pre-seasoned with garlic powder?
Yep. You're welcome.
That's a bonus.
Yeah. And he feeds them apple cider vinegar. And that helps with the gut biome. So it helps keep toxins, because, a lot of people don't realize this, but pastures can become toxic. So there are weeds or certain things that come up that can be, that they eat, that, just like humans, we ingest toxins and we don't even realize it. Well, the apple cider vinegar helps flush that out. It's also supposed to help contribute to the tenderness of the meat. So.
And you guys make that up a couple times a year, right?
So yes, we do sell apple cider vinegar, but we don't make enough to feed our cattle, so we purchase it. The apple cider vinegar.
I got you. So you make up some, but then you still have to buy some later on.
Yeah. Yep. And it's organic apple cider vinegar. It comes in big totes, and he just every day he puts them in a bucket, and when you should see their faces when they first try it. They look at and they kind of pull back like, whoa, that is not water. And then pretty soon they crave it, and then they just slurp it up. So those are two things that we've added to the program that we've made adjustments as we go. And a lot of times we have people will say, well, how can you say that you don't give any antibiotics? Like, you get a sick calf, you're just not going to treat it? Like, that's not nice. Well, no, clearly we don't neglect animal well-being. So if there is one that is on the brink of being sick, we do treat it with necessary antibiotics. However, then we pull that from the grass-fed program. We don't push it through.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of anything else on this specific area. You got anything more? You got anything you want to talk about? Or?
Well, Kate, is there anything like customer feedback that we need to adjust our program, or things that we need to look at or consider? For example, Nevada and I were talking about flank steak.
We sell a lot of flank steak.
So, you guys...
Can you have a cow produce more flank steak, please?
Okay.
Well,
I'll tell
here's
Matt.
the best part about it. So we were talking, and she's like, "Well, we just have them throw in the ground beef because they don't have anybody that asks for it."
I know. We
So-
sell it all the time.
So we are sitting here in Wichita going like, hey, can we get more flank steak? And you're like, well, I don't have any because, why would I get any of it? And we're sitting here looking at your stuff going like, oh, they don't have any. They must be selling plenty of it. Just like we're getting super demand for it.
Yeah.
So it's been over a
Yeah.
year here that we've been going, please, we need more flank steak. That now the whole thing is like we sold like 4 of them in one weekend.
Yeah.
And you're going like, I can't even sell 4 in a year.
Yeah.
So we just stopped having to make it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious how those things come up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, we have people ask constantly for it. It's crazy. No, I'm trying to think of any improvement feedback. Most of the feedback I get is just how amazing the flavor is, especially like the people who try the burgers and the roasts. Those are 2 of my favorite, but it's like, dang them, we told some people the arm roast are really good and now they're taking all of them, so we can't make anything with them. I'm going to have to go back to chuck roast, which is equally as good, but it's still just disappointing.
Actually, she usually texts me all during the farmer market days, like, "What a shocker! You're selling more beef patties." And I'm just like, I get people all the time like, you know what? They're curious. They want to know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Here, take a thing of burgers. Just try these out. You can come back and tell me how they are later. And people they get them and they come back the next week. They're like, okay, I need this, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's a pretty easy thing because almost anybody will try a burger.
Well, and that's the thing, we'll have people come up to us and they're nervous to try it.
It's definitely an investment too, because
It's
it's
an
more
investment.
than the store, which your
Yep.
prices are still very competitive, but it's still more than the store.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so some people, they're like, oh, I just don't, like I had one lady who she's like, well, I want to get a couple of roasts, and then I told her, and she's like, no, I'm not doing it, and walked
Yeah.
away. I'm like, well, you're going to regret that because it's really good,
Yeah.
but okay, and it's not even that much more than the store, but
Well, and a lot of people, if they haven't tasted it, it's scary
yeah.
because, like you said, it's an investment. And I tell people, with this particular situation, you get what you pay for. And
Yeah, I tell them all the time, I'm like, you're either going to pay for it now or later with your health stuff, so you can pick which one you want to do.
exactly.
Up to you.
Exactly.
Well, I think the bigger question a lot of times, I have people before that have looked at the pricing and been like, almost like, good luck,
Yep.
and I just kind of
Yep.
I think the one I've kind of flipped a little bit on though, where I was like, shouldn't we be asking why they can sell it for $3.99 a pound? Because we know the industry is saying it should be higher than that.
Yeah.
So what are they doing to that meat that allows them to make a profit at that price?
Yep.
Which is a little scary when you think of that, because then you're
Yeah.
like, is it really, what are they doing to that?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We'll have people come up to us and they'll say, "Oh yeah, well I get my grass fed at Costco." Like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that beef from New Zealand and Australia, it's pretty popular. And they just stop. Wait, it's from Australia? Yeah. Oh, well, we thought it was in the U.S. No, there's a reason. There's always a reason behind the price. There's always a reason. So you have to ask and you have to learn. They're not just going to lay it out there for you. You're going to read grass-fed, and you're going to think, oh, yeah, it's grass-fed. Does it say grass-finish on it? It's a whole different ballgame. So,
Which every cow pretty much is grass fed.
yeah, it'd be dumb to... I don't know any cattle that are just born in a pen and just kept their whole lives. It's not a healthy environment for them, and most feed yard cattle that do end up having a calf, it's really hard to keep them alive once they're born. We've tried it, and there's just so many diseases and things in the feed yard that as soon as they drop on the ground in that feed yard, it's really hard. We've tried to take them home and feed them a bucket calf, and it's hard. So yeah, so yeah, all cattle are grass fed to begin with.
Yeah.
So don't be deceived by that. It's like a fish saying they swim in water. Yes, they have to. They have to survive. Yeah, but then how you finish them out is what's important.
Thank you for watching. Kate and Nevada hope you've enjoyed this show and found it useful and empowering. If you have any questions or comments, please contact them at Kinetics.com. That's KNETICX.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And please write a review of the show. Kate and Nevada appreciate hearing the feedback, and they welcome your reviews, and your word of mouth will help others learn how to feel better and be better.